And so I'm just like propped up against the kitchen sink, like with my leg up. I was like, I remember the appraiser's name. Her name was Jenny. I was like, so blah, 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 blah. I was like, just trying to make conversation. I like usually they don't turn on the water because they assume there is water.
Yes.
But I was like lounging on like against the kitchen.
Over the sink. You're like, nothing to see here. It's all good. Like, don't worry about it.
She figured
You're
it out.
like in the sink. You're like, you don't need to turn this water on. I'm sitting. This is where I sit. The sink is very comfortable. This is where I sit. I could picture it, by the way. You in the sink, cross-legged.
I know.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Behind the Lockbox. I'm Stephanie Zalowski here with
Cameron Barbier.
Today, I'm very excited about this guest. We have Sabrina Covington with us. Sabrina and I actually met just in November when we did a deal together.
We did a deal.
One of the best deals of both of our careers. We like to think it was so smooth. So thank you again for that. I actually met her at her open house and we knew right then we were going to become fast friends. It's kind of like how me and you were, you know what I mean? Like you just know when you meet someone that's like your people. Correct me if I'm wrong here. You are the broker and founder of Covington and Associates at Hanson Realty.
So Covington and Associates, and then we acquired Hanson Realty.
Oh, amazing.
Recently, and they were founded in the 50s. So
wow,
they go way, way, way back.
That's really
like
cool.
They still have a landline.
Oh, I love that.
And it still rings. It still rings.
I actually really want a landline.
I do too.
Oh my God, I like really do.
Yeah. Oh, I have a landline.
I need your phone. I'm going to call you on your. I'm going to get a landline. And I'm going to call you on your landline. Like, can you hear me? Like the game telephone. Anyway,
don't you need something to plug it in?
Well, you need like a jack in the wall.
A jack in the wall. Yes. Do you have one of those?
Somewhere. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think I have one.
Matt needs to install one. Anyway, again, still in the intro. This is what happens. You guys special in selling unique properties, both residential and commercial. And based on our short convo, again, I know you have some stories for us. And she was like, I didn't totally prepare. And I was like, don't. It's better when you don't prepare. Just like hit us with them. So Sabrina, welcome to Behind the Lockbox.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Thank you for being here. Okay. So where would you like to start? You can hit us with whatever you want.
So I did live off the grid. I was living off the grid when I got my real estate license.
No, where?
Palomar Mountain.
Oh my God, you're gonna have to expand on this a little bit.
I like this stuff.
That is so cool.
It was so wild. So like I just hit the ground running with real estate. I got my license. I had just had my first daughter. Wow. And I was living on Palomar Mountain. And I bought into that whole flexible schedule thing on the brochure for real estate agents.
We all did.
So funny. We all did. Yeah. People still do, by the way. You're like,
I know. I'm like, what are you thinking? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway. You really have to be flexible for other people, not for yourself.
I think that's what they meant.
That's what they meant. Asterisk. But
yeah.
So I started selling properties on Palomar Mountain, like little cabins, and I ended up selling some bigger properties, and like I sold the helicopter pad in the middle of town. I sold Bailey's Palomar Resort. I sold the Palomar Mountain Lodge. And these properties are so old.
Like some are historic, no?
Historic.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Mm-hmm. So I learned everything the hard way. So I sold and lived up there for 7 years. And I always kind of tell myself that gave me like 25 years of experience in 7 years. It was almost like a dog year thing.
Yeah.
Because I had so many problems. I had cabins that were built like on the wrong land. I had like edges of people's house on other people's parcel.
No.
Wow. Really stupid. I mean,
which is like stuff we all encounter from time to time, but like,
how did you navigate all that?
Yeah. How did you have like,
I wasn't very smart.
So right?
I was intelligent because I had a first career in the medical field.
Sure.
But that smartness did not translate into real estate in like the worst way. It's like, thank God for moms that let you sell their condos and their cabins.
Seriously. And like give you some of that experience. That's school of hard knocks, really. Like you're just figuring it out.
I had no idea what I was doing because real estate's really confusing.
Do any of us when we start? I mean,
every deal's different. I still don't know some of the things, you know?
There are things that come up in every deal. Okay. Full disclosure. I think I admitted to you, I had actually in my almost 10 years sold anything with septic.
With the septic.
I've made offers on stuff or we've had stuff that like didn't close or it did. And so I was like, Sabrina, like what do I do? I know I'm supposed to know what to do here, but like, what do I do? And she's like, I was like, they're asking if there's like a lid on something. And she's like, I got you, girl. Like you do. It's like, you're
Thank
like,
goodness I did all my Well,
it's
one
like
story
stuff
that
doesn't
actually
come up.
came to mind is there's this area of Palomar Mountain called Birch Hill, and everything is you can't get title policies. There's no legal access. It's like a real mess.
Wow.
And
Really
I
off the
sold.
grid.
I sold a property. It was the middle of winter. I mean, I know we're San Diego County, but it gets freezing up there.
Oh yeah, no, it's mountain. Yeah.
And in my cute little paperwork, I was like septic clearance and like let the lender see it and all that. Didn't occur to me that the ground was frozen. So we couldn't dig up.
I was like, where are you going? I don't know. Oh my God.
So we had to, like, the whole deal took forever because I locked it into the contract.
And then they couldn't do anything.
And we couldn't dig anything up. It was frozen.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so like to check on it?
To dig it up and pump it and certify it. And I felt so stupid. I was like calling my seller. I'm like, hey, we have a little problem. Like, I'm a total idiot.
What would you write in a contract to avoid that?
Well,
maybe not clearance, right? Is it kind of like termite clearance?
It's like any other deal where you have signed contracts. Well, it's the SWPI form, the septic well and property corner.
Yeah, the one we never look at.
Yeah, I know
the one
what it is,
like all the time.
Yeah.
You would just like not link it to the contract so the lender doesn't see it.
It's like termite.
It's like just like termite.
Okay.
It's like you don't want the lender to know. You're like, oh, we're giving a credit for this. Like we're
gonna do it.
Yes,
but they don't.
Yes.
Which actually makes me think of a story that I hadn't thought of to prepare for this.
Perfect.
But one thing I do think I'm really good with appraisers, like even male or female. I have my ways.
Me too. You're like, you look really nice today.
I know.
I bought you a coffee and some donuts. What else can I get you? Like, this property will appraise, right? Like,
right.
And this was back in, what year was this? I know I'm aging.
Back in the day. So I've been like the crash for 21 years.
This is before 2007, 2008.
No, this was 2000.
This specific story.
Oh, well, I'm going to tell you another story about.
Okay. Because what I'm getting at is before the market crash and everything of 2007, 2008, I worked for Countrywide Home Loans. And so I used to call appraisers and I used to call different people in the business and be like, I'd like lunch today. And they'd give us tickets for things. And like you would like, trade things like that. Now that is like highly illegal. You can't do that kind of stuff anymore. But that's what I'm saying. Like you could have your way. I mean, you still have your ways, but you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's interesting. So much has changed. Anyway, I digress.
No, it's okay. I thought of another story because I sold this house. This was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, but it had no running water. But it wasn't a mountain property. It was in the middle of Escondido, like in the middle of town. It only had well water. And it was like not potable.
Oh my God.
And the appraiser came and like, we're keeping it real, right? So it was a female appraiser that showed up and I'm like, God damn it.
Which there aren't that many.
I know. Well, luckily she had just done another appraisal for us on another weird property in Rainbow.
Oh, good.
That I didn't have countertops. We had to do trick photography like in the kitchen because there were no countertops.
The properties you have sold, you have literally lived 30 lives, like in real estate. In real estate.
True. And
wow.
A side note on that Rainbow house, we were the listing agents, so we never met the buyer. And we had an issue with like a boat, like a small boat that had sunken into the ground. So one of the problems I have repeatedly is like, what is personal property and what's real property? So like big, heavy objects that sink into the ground, well, technically they're personal property. We got in a big old fight about who's going to pull this boat out of the ground. And so like fast forward a few years later and I go to Pilates, Club Pilates.
Yeah.
And the manager of our studio starts talking about her house and like some certain things are like sounding interesting to me.
This sounds familiar.
And then she's like, yeah, when we bought our house, there was like a boat sinking into the ground. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Is your house in Rainbow? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Like, you're like, damn boat.
I remember I was there.
Did she have to dig it up?
Yeah, somebody dug it up.
How does boats sink into the ground? Like what? Wow.
It has to do with the water table in Fallbrook and Rainbow. It's like a really high water table.
Yeah.
So you have to have, this is boring for probably people listening, but you have to have like alternative septic systems because the water table's so high.
Well, and I've sold a couple of properties, not in Rainbow, but in Fallbrook for buyers. And like, again, it's a whole nother education. And again, this is all San Diego County. And
I know.
You drive 30 minutes east or an hour east and you're like, where am I? Like so different. Landscape, terrain, everything. Like people in Poway would not be like, oh, the water table. They don't even know what that is. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. And by the way, all of these things are not on the real estate exam.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
How many square feet are in an acre are, but how to dig a boat out of a ground because of the water table is not, or negotiation. Like, it's insane. You're ill prepared sometimes. Well, most of the time.
I know.
When you start. But like you said, these are the things this is how you learn. You know what I mean? Like, wow.
Well, and then back to the story. So I sold this house with, I think it was a probate sale or something like that. Anyway, there was
which adds another
there
level.
was a well. It was in the middle of the city of Escondido, and it wasn't connected to city water. And so I'm just like propped up against the kitchen sink, like with my leg up. I was like, I remember the appraiser's name. Her name was Jenny. I was like, so blah, 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 blah. I was like, just trying to make conversation. Usually they don't turn on the water because they assume there is water.
Yes.
But I was like lounging on, like against the kitchen.
Over the sink. You're like, nothing to see here. It's all good. Like, don't worry about it.
Figure it
You're
out.
like in the sink. You're like, you don't need to turn this water on. I'm sitting. This is where I sit. The sink is very comfortable. This is where I sit. I could picture it, by the way. You in the sink, cross-legged.
I know. And then I just start like praising her because she gave us a really good value on that rainbow house. And it was just like a few weeks before. It was so random.
Yeah.
And I was like, thanks for really hooking us up on that rainbow house.
You're
like,
the best.
Need it again.
You're the best. And like her ego was just like floating up. And then all she did was chat me up the whole time. And she didn't turn on anything or try anything.
Thank
We
God.
ended up getting water like 12 hours before the close.
But you're like,
I just didn't want her to know about it.
Yeah. I mean, you got to kind of, you got to.
Smooth out the wrinkles.
You really do.
And it has nothing to do with concealing things.
No.
We're not talking about that because both buyers and sellers knew about the issue. But like,
Of course. You got to
like
disclose that
lenders
stuff.
and appraisers just
Yeah. You got to just make sure the deal
they
closes.
don't want to know.
Yeah. They don't.
And just like when you're a listing agent, like you don't want to know if someone thinks their house is haunted. It's like, stop talking.
Stop telling me these things.
Yeah.
I know. I agree. And like we had somebody on a couple weeks ago that they had for sure ghosts in the house, and you need to listen to this episode because it's actually really freaking funny. And his mom didn't necessarily believe him. And he was like, oh my gosh, hey Max, side note, can you close that window? I forgot that window's still open. I can hear everything. Anyway, so he basically, there was ghosts in the house, and his mom had to call a shaman to come and like get rid of it. And they were like, we didn't say anything to anybody. Cause again, it's not a disclosure. It's just something that he felt, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those gray areas, like you said, smoothing out the wrinkles. Like you have to disclose things that are material facts.
Yeah.
A ghost is not a material fact.
If you
know?
sage out a house, yeah. I mean,
That's exactly what they did was
you
sage the
reminded
house,
me of a
basically.
story.
Yeah.
So I had a divorce deal. It was a mess. It was a short sale. I had to break in. Nobody had a key to the house.
Mm-hmm.
Like the husband had to have a military order to cooperate on the sale because he was in the military.
dang.
It was messy.
mess.
People were breaking in the house and doing like satanic rituals in the backyard, like teenagers and stuff.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so I brought I had this friend, India, that would do like house clearings.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, girl, I need you right now. Like this house is a disaster.
Like, yeah. Stuff
And-
keeps happening.
Yeah, it's just like cursed.
Yeah.
And like, so she came over and did like an energy clearing, and
Yeah.
she did the doorways and the windows.
Yeah.
And this was quite a long time ago. And I remember at that time I was a little bit discouraged in the industry because, I mean, come on, like how many problems can you have?
Yeah. And
A lot.
One deal, a lot can go wrong.
But I
in
do
one
remember
deal.
her. So she did a clearing for the house. It was on a cul-de-sac. And she was like, don't quit. Like, keep going. Like, this is your career. And she really encouraged me. And
cool.
and it was like a really pivotal
moment.
point.
Yeah.
And so that story is that I did have her clear the house. And it was like the neighbors, I knew the neighbors because that's how I got the referral. And the neighbors would tell me they would see people go in for a showing and step back out like 30 seconds later. Like they wouldn't even walk through the house.
Whoa.
So I think it was like
they
Super
felt
deal.
so they felt something, or they were like, this is not for
so
me.
it was either like the day after, like just a couple of days after, I got like 6 offers on the house after the clearing.
the same thing.
That was the same thing. They got an offer a week later, like one under contract, smooth as can be. Like you do. I mean, I believe in that stuff. Like you
I
gotta
do too.
sometimes
And
clear that energy.
I do. And then my friend India, she started telling me stuff about her clearing. And I'm like, like, I'm not sure I really want you to give me a lot of detail.
yeah. Yeah.
And then she told me, she said, there's going to be a little boy that lives here and he's going to be really happy and he's going to play in the cul-de-sac. And I said, okay, all right. Like, it's cool.
Okay.
And then we got the 6 offers, and it was a short sale. So you have to be really objective and like kind of take the top offer. So I remember I was working at Realty One in Rancho Bernardo when it was open, and I remember being in the conference room and I remember spreading out like the 6 offers, and we took pictures and did all this silly stuff.
We're so happy that like you finally got offers on it. Yeah.
And so we had to take the top offer, like objectively, right?
Right.
So I called the other agent and I was like, hey, this is kind of a really weird question. Don't judge, but like,
Do you have a 6-year-old?
Is there a little boy that's going to live in this house? And he's like, no, she's a single gal. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Like, I'm not going to get too woo-woo on this. Yeah. Like, we're just going to move on. And then the deal got really rocky. We let the buyer move in early, and then she couldn't close, and she was threatening us with tenant laws. And I was like, okay, never do that again.
That's why that is never, yes.
And so it got ugly. And then I asked the other agent for permission to talk to the buyer directly because she was threatening to like sue and squat and all this stuff. And gosh, I'm trying to recall the details of this. So we were talking direct. I told the other agent, because he wasn't being that effective. I was like, just go surfing. I'll close the deal. And I meant
just let me handle it.
Just let me handle it.
Yeah. Sometimes there's too many cooks in the kitchen. You're like, I got this. I have a way. Like, I got this. Yeah.
So then, I guess she needed like 10 grand to close the deal. It was like FHA, and the other agent was like, she doesn't have an extra 10 grand. She just doesn't have it. She's, and I was like, okay. And then I talked to the lender, and the lender's like, she doesn't have an extra 10,000. Like, there's no parent to call, or no one's going to save the day. And so then I got permission to call her, and then we were talking, and she said, she was like really upset and all the, emotional. And then she's like, in the conversation, she goes, well, my grandson's going to live here with me. And I got like full body chills. I literally got like
the little boy.
The little boy.
Wow.
I mean, I still get chills when I think about the story. And then I was like thinking, I'm like, India said this boy is going to live in this house, and this boy is going to, I'm going to close this deal. Like,
we're going to figure this out.
We're going to figure this out. Yeah. So I'm talking to the client, and I'm like, hey, like, I'm just going to ask you a question, because everyone's telling me you don't have
that 10 grand.
The 10 grand. So I'm just going to ask you, like, do you have an extra $10,000? And she goes, yeah, I do. I can pull it out of my 401k.
Maybe it was just the way that people were talking to her.
Yeah.
And like, it's
or
that
assuming, like we've seen everything. So why?
And like, I can see why she responded well to you. Again, I mean, the second I met you, I was like, she's our girl. Like, there is just a way with people, and a lot of people don't have it. You know what I mean? Like, you got to just talk to them like they're human. And there's always an answer. There's always a way to
like, everyone just needs to calm down.
Yes.
And so I told her, I said, hey,
amazing.
I said, if you put in 9, I'll put in 1. Oh. And she started bawling on the phone.
Yeah, because she probably like was going to take care of her grandson. And like, you were the one person that was talking
to her like a human. And I was like, I'll just chip in a little, just like, I didn't have to. And she starts bawling.
Yep.
And she was like, you're going to give me $1,000. I'm like, yeah, like, we're going to do this.
Yeah. You're meant to live here.
Because I just didn't want her to use like all of her money or whatever.
Yeah, especially when you're taking it out of your 401k.
Yeah, and it closed, and it was like, oh, that's kind of a fun story.
That's really cool. That's a good one.
So amazing. See, I told you. I know.
I probably have more stories than I was like trying to recall some, but there's some good ones. After 20 years, there's some good ones.
You actually reminded me of one that I had. It was in Julian on Whispering Pines. It was our team's deal. Mm-hmm. And it was on septic, which most of us on the team had not dealt with. Mm-mm. And I remember I had to drive up there and like, go do stuff for paperwork reasons. And the agent said that the deal was not going to go through. And we were like, why? What happened? Like, everything was running so smoothly. He's like, well, the septic. We're like, what do you mean? He's like,
what is septic?
you're like Googling.
Yeah. I'm like,
what does septic mean? Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess it was a husband and wife, and they were selling their property. And it was going through the investigations. And so they had, I don't even know what you do with the septic. You go in and you pump it out. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. So they're doing that, and they're pumping it out, and it's clogged because there's all these condoms in the septic, and they can't clear it or whatever because he had been cheating on her. And then the whole deal blew up. And it was just this crazy thing. I don't like fully remember the rest of what
You have
happened,
never told me that story.
I forgot about it until you said that. I'm sitting here like,
story.
Oh my gosh. I guess it was just like filled with condoms.
He was just like flushing them down the toilet?
I guess.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So, that's a good one.
So to like hide the evidence basically versus throwing them in the trash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he got caught
in his own home.
Trying to sell it.
Savage. Yeah. Wow. Oh my God.
That's a great story.
Wow.
You win.
Yeah, you do. Behind the Lockbox is sponsored by Property Showcase Group. Property Showcase Group has a team of creatives, directors, producers, editors, marketing specialists, and designers that work in tandem to tell and share stories of the built environment. Whether you're looking for full-service production or simply just in content creation, Property Showcase Group can help take your business to the next level. To learn more or to contact Property Showcase Group to schedule a consultation, you can find them at propertyshowcasegroup.com. That's spelled PropertyShowcasegroup.com. PropertyShowcaseGroup.com. Those are some good stories. I can't believe you lived off the grid.
Oh yeah, wait,
I did.
More about that.
Okay, yeah, wait. Tell us how that started and how it ended. Like, did you like?
Do you really want to know?
Yeah, was it something that you like set out to do?
And is it hard?
It sounds.
It's really hard.
We're talking electricity, plumbing, like what
yeah,
did that look
septic,
like?
Generator, well. Wow. So I was living in Cardiff. I got married in 2000.
Okay.
We were looking at houses. Couldn't really afford to stay in Cardiff.
Yeah.
Ended up just on a whim driving to Palomar Mountain. It was actually based off a little article in the Reader. This was a long time ago.
Yeah. Which it is beautiful up there. I mean,
it is beautiful.
Yeah.
And we found a for sale by owner. It was 9 acres. You're going to die when I tell you this. 9 acres with a house with this insane view, like all the way to Mexico.
How much?
And a workshop, $195 on 9 acres.
Wow.
It was crazy.
$195,000. You were like,
this
we could
is
pay
like
cash.
before all those casinos were built, like before anything.
Yeah.
How much would that be now?
Oh, there's a, God, I don't know. I have to think about it. All those properties are so unique up there. I have a really unique property up there right now that has like
that's cool
waterfall and it's off the grid too, but it has a much fancier power system
than you did.
It's like a zombie apocalypse property. It's really cool.
Wow. Do you have photos of that?
I do. It's on the market. Sold the same property 20 years ago.
Oh my God.
It's on East Grade Road. It's 20 acres with a house. We're at 1.5.
Well, you send it to me because I'm sure my husband will.
It's so cool. And
You're
that
buy it with the
client, I love that client. She's the most unusual. I've got 2 most unusual clients. Her name is Critter, and she has a YouTube channel, and it's amazing. And she interviews guinea pigs and like.
No way.
Oh my God, we have to look this up. This is fantastic.
And she feeds the ravens like by hand. I mean, she's so cool.
Wow. Where is she going to go? Why is she selling?
Northern Cal. They're buying like more property. Yeah.
More off the grid land.
More off the grid land.
So, so you guys moved out there and that's how you started that journey. How long did you live up there?
I lived up there for 7 years.
Okay.
And what's interesting is the house I lived in. So this just all happened. You know how things just happen.
Definitely.
And then later I looked at a map, and the house I moved from in Cardiff to the house we bought was the entire State Route 6 from exact point to exact point.
No way.
So like back to that whole energy thing, it's like there's so many things like we try to understand and things we just cannot understand, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So wait, was this before or after real estate, or like before a journey?
That's when I started real estate after I moved up there. Yeah.
So how are you doing all your deals like off grid?
I had one of those. Does anyone remember those little Verizon like things you would plug into your computer? Mm-hmm. And I would have to go like sit on a certain part of the property to get internet, like on a rock.
It was essentially like a hotspot.
It was a hotspot.
Fun fact, my grandma, the same grandma who refers to Sutter Homes as airplane wine.
Yep.
She was like, Steffi, I got myself a hot box. And I was like, you got yourself a what? And she's like, a hot box, you know, for the Wi-Fi. And I was like, it's not called a hot box. And so we forever refer to it now. They live in a more rural area near Sedona in Arizona. It's Camp Verde, which by the way, was just in like Forbes or something as like one of the top places to retire and live in the country. Nice. And I was like, what? Anyway, it's cute. It's quaint, but they don't have regular internet, you know? And so when my cousins, like little kids come over, her other grandkids, they like come in, they're like, Nana, can we get the Wi-Fi password? You know, cause they're like 6 and 7
like
and got tablet. Oh yeah. She's like, you have to play, you know, she still has her hot box. So like, it's so that's what you had. You got your little hot box out and went and sat on a rock up on top of Palomar Mountain. And that's how you did it.
I don't know how we got by, honestly.
I don't know
That's
either.
amazing.
That is wild. And were your girls born when you were living up there?
Yeah, that's why my oldest daughter is named Cedar from those trees, Cedar Covington. Cool. And then we would turn our power completely off at night. So I would like light candles and
wow,
it was pretty cool.
That's really special. A special time that like
it was a special time.
You don't live like that now. So it's like the fact that you had that time. Not a lot of people do that.
I got pretty tough.
Like, yeah, oh, I'm sure. And you definitely sell some pretty unique stuff. Everything you post on Instagram like cracks me up because I'm like, these properties are they're rad.
They're crazy.
They're crazy. The stuff that like one day it's like a normal. Then there's the fixer that we did together.
The one we did was honestly a little boring. I had to spice it.
It was pretty cool though.
I spiced it up a little bit because
you did. You had some Instagram stories. You were pulling back some carpet. You were like, let's see what's under here.
The carpet.
Yep.
And then I made it coming soon because I knew people were going to hop the fence to get in because that owner never locks any of his houses.
No, literally, I was like, can we get the key for closing? She's like, there is no key.
There's no key.
And I was like, what? She's like, there's no key. And I was like, well, all right. And then I think the owner he ended up having one key and I was like, okay. And remember when I went over there, we went back for something and you're like, all the doors are open. Every door was locked. She's like, how's that possible? I'm like,
those doors don't lock.
I'm like, girl, I swear I am pulling there. It is not opening. Sure enough, the owner's like, oh yeah, I went over and locked everything, but he doesn't lock his own doors.
No.
But he locked those doors. So I was like, okay, tell him to not lock us out, leave a key in the kitchen drawer somewhere and leave that door open. And he did. He's adorable.
Murphy's Law.
Oh my God.
What was so funny is like, I knew your clients were going to demo the house. Yes. And then right before closing, the wife was giving me like these old moldings and things she had kept. Oh. Like, she's like, can you give these to the new buyers? And like old fixtures. She's like,
did you leave them in the garage or anywhere or no?
I didn't take them because I was like, they're not going to try to match moldings and like old fixtures. It was really cute.
They're
She's
in their
these
young
match
30s.
The ones that are there. I'm like,
sweet.
I was like, okay.
Going in the garbage. Sorry. I know it's so hard. I'm so pumped to see what they do with that place. The views are sick. Those views.
I know.
Are insane.
But you were so cool. So you were there without your clients and we had other really good offers.
I sweet talked her.
She did.
Like the appraiser.
I'm surprised. Like, where are my roses? Like, you didn't have my home address.
They're coming. Don't worry. Actually, I don't. I need it. Send you chocolates and flowers and everything. She was literally, how many offers did you have?
We had a handful, but like you were there and your clients hadn't seen the house, which is like a big no-no.
And she still allowed me. I was like, they are coming back into town this weekend because they've been going back and forth between here, Texas and New York. And they have an Airbnb. And I was like, I swear to God, and they did. She was like, all right, let's open escrow, but it's contingent upon them seeing it. And then we'll go she was so rad. Like, that's awesome. That's hard to do these days. And I was like, I'm going to be honest with her. Like, this is what we're up against.
You were like pacing around videoing. I'm like,
oh yeah,
this girl's on fire.
Oh yeah. I was like, where is the listing agent? And like, you had some, I don't know who was there helping you. They were so sweet too. They're like, she's right over there. And I was like, hi,
it's me.
You want to accept my offer, don't you? Yeah. I know. Thank you so much for that, by the way.
Well, that's the cool thing about real estate is like you can make rules and then you can change them and you can bend them and then you can get rid of them.
And you meet the coolest people. I mean, like we literally stood in the driveway and like there was people like walking by us and we were just like talking, lamenting for a minute. And then we were
I remember that
one
really rude agent that kept telling me the roof tiles were falling off and someone was going to die and I needed to put up caution tape.
Yes.
No.
That's what she told me. She's like, because I was like, what do I need to know?
I'm like, you're a brat.
And like, what is the point? Like, why? I will never understand. I have never walked in.
That roof was pretty bad.
It was. Oh, my client was like, is there anything savable? Like, we had 3 different roofers go out there and everyone was like, no. The whole thing must go. You know what? Just take the whole roof off. In fact, like the whole thing is being,
the funniest thing is when you like hire a photographer for a listing and they're like, do you want drone photos? And you're like, sure, add on the drone. And then you see these horrendous, because I didn't know the roof was falling off till the photographer. And it's like,
literally,
it's like a third of the roof is gone and like tiles are falling off. I was like, I can't use
tiles were like sliding off the roof. Like not as we were there standing there, but like there was a chunk and they're like, so what happened here? And I'm like, I have no idea.
Probably a ghost.
And then,
I actually took a ghost video there because there was like a room you couldn't get in where the hot water heater was.
Oh my God. She calls me. She's like, okay, I found the hot water heater. You're going to want to tell your inspector. I'm like, what do you mean you found the hot water heater? She's like, so you know, on like the east side of that, whatever side of the house that it was, there's a little window and you slide it open.
You got to crawl through.
You got to crawl through the window. And then it's this like under house crawl space and the hot water heater is back there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going in there, but he can. Okay, great. So she's sending me photos and like explaining. And sure enough, he's like, found the, there? Joe did. Shout out to Joe. He was like, found the hot water heater. And I was like, thanks, Joe. And then he was like, so like the roof doesn't look that great. And I was like, yeah, it's fine. And then remember when you called me out of the blue and you're like, I have something to tell you. And I think this was on Halloween. And I was like, Sabrina, I was like, what? And
I was like, are you sitting down?
Yeah. And I was like, why? And she's like, so I just found out that the tenant died in the house. Like, 6 months ago, a year ago, whatever it was.
Yeah,
like the tenant
on property.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And she's like, is this going to be a deal breaker? And I was like, I don't think so. And
okay, for people that are listening that are outside of the industry, that's like a major disclosure that you had to disclose.
She had no idea
up front.
Because again, her client had not in the house.
The tenant.
Yeah. Peacefully in the bed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Surrounded by family is what.
Well, they told me it was a maybe, and I'm like, we probably need to find out for sure because I don't want this to come back to haunt me.
Literally.
I know. You're so cool about it.
Oh my! And I was like, you know what? Well, and I knew my clients though, and I was like, they're young, but they own like 6 different. But they have been buying and selling. They're junkies, and so I knew. And she said to me, this was the coolest thing. I called her and I said, I got to talk to you. She didn't answer. I was like, call me when you have a minute. She's a consultant. So she is on the phone in meetings like 24/7. She calls me and I'm like, is Zach with you? And she's like, no. And I'm like, okay, I need to tell you something. And I hope this doesn't ruin the deal, but like, I just have to let you know. So I tell her and she's quiet for a second and she's like, okay. And I was like, is that a problem? And she's like, and it was just the sweetest thing what she said. She said, my dad actually passed away a few years ago in our home, surrounded by family. And it was so peaceful. And like, I've been there twice now and I did not get bad vibes and I think it's perfectly fine. And I was like, okay.
I actually did sage that house.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was, I felt great in it. We went at dusk that one night and we watched the sunset. Not at all. And there have been many houses I have been in where I'm like, nope. And turn around and walk out and like, something's going on here. It was amazing. It was so wonderful. So thank you. But it was are you sitting down? I think it was like literally Halloween when you called me and I'm like, oh God. Okay. Like, cause you just don't know what the client's going to say. You don't know.
Pretty soon, like in California, we're going to have like an energy disclosure, like good energy, bad energy. Like,
have you saged this house? Have you brought in a shaman? No. Yes. Should I? I don't know. It'll be like the square footage disclosure.
I know. We recommend that you,
sage every single house at your own risk.
That would be the worst idea though.
I mean, it wouldn't be. In fact,
there's going to be a disclosure. I'd rather have that one.
100% agree. Anyway. Do you see this outside? Our landscaper, or not ours, but it's the neighboring one. Anyway, you can probably hear it. All right. Max gave us the 5-minute mark. Let's play a little game. Are you good?
I'm good.
That? Okay. Are you ready, Kim?
Yes.
She's going to ask you 3 rapid fire questions. This might incite some more stories. So like first thing that comes to your head.
Okay. What's the craziest or pettiest thing that's ever killed or almost killed one of your deals? Besides condoms.
Actually the one we just talked about, because that seller is an atheist, which is funny because I sold his last property to a church, but he was like up in arms about, he didn't want to disclose the death on property because he's like, that's bringing religion into real estate.
No way.
And that means we believe in ghosts and we don't believe in ghosts. And like, he almost didn't sell the house because of that disclosure.
So that was another reason why you were already like, is this going to be a problem? Like I could feel that you were like really concerned. So you didn't tell me that part.
The seller was the chillest person on earth, except for that. He's super charged up about that issue.
Wow. Interesting.
Because of his beliefs. Yeah.
Wow. Well, see, good thing it was me.
What's the weirdest thing or situation you've ever walked in on?
Walked in on. I've had other agents walk in on my sellers having sex.
No.
Yeah, on the mountain.
They were in the mountain having sex?
They were in their cabin.
When she sold up on
But it was a small cabin, so I'm pretty sure you could see everything. What else are you going to do when you live in the mountain? I mean,
nothing. You're off grid.
You're off grid.
That's all there is to do.
Yeah, right?
That's hysterical. Thank God you haven't seen. I have also yet not to walk in on anything like that.
If you could be anything other than a real estate agent, what would you be and why?
Oh, I'd be an actor for sure.
Oh. I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. It's not too late.
I'm going to Sundance in a couple of weeks, and I told my friends, I'm like, I want to be discovered, and they're like laughing. I'm like, I'm not joking.
Oh my God, I hope you are. I hope I see on your Instagram or you text me and be like, I'm at Sundance and I just had a meeting with Steven Spielberg. I don't know. He doesn't probably go to Sundance, but you know what I mean? Maybe.
No,
it's more.
I would love to make a movie.
You would be so good in it. I could see it.
I have a few plots. I have some like off the grid plots, and I came up with like a screenplay idea when we were in Utah about FLDS. So I have a screenplay idea for that, where like the FLDS women like are like hoarding Bitcoin to get out.
Do you know what FLDS is?
No.
It's the fundamentalist Mormon religion.
Oh.
But where we stayed was like 5 minutes from their headquarters, so we would drive around every day.
Do you watch like documentaries on that?
Oh yeah, my oldest daughter is like obsessed with cults.
I watch a lot of. I'm like, I can't look away. I'm like, I need to know like why, how, like what.
So we picked this Airbnb to go to Zion and Bryce.
So cool.
It ended up being like 5 minutes away from FLDS headquarters, but we didn't know that. So my oldest daughter is like obsessed with documentaries and cults. And
did you drive by?
Every day we went hunting. We went FLDS hunting.
Could you see them outside walking around?
Yeah. So on Christmas Day, we went to the gas station, and there was one getting gas, and she said, "Merry Christmas" to my daughter. And my oldest daughter, Cedar, she was like adamant she didn't want any gifts this year. She's like all these things. And she got back in the car and she was like,
"That's my Christmas gift."
Oh my God, that's the best Christmas gift I've ever gotten in my life.
How can you tell?
She's like an FLDS. It's like their clothing and and then certain colors match to different husbands.
It's polygamy.
For polygamy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
they usually have long, sometimes a bonnet, cloth.
Their hair can be braided in certain ways that identifies.
And their hair is really long, and they do wear, it's a lot of pastels and different colors.
It's a lot of pastels.
And long skirts to the floor. Mm-hmm. Everything is covered. Dude, it's
to look into this.
It's fucking wild.
I just saw a documentary on one of them. I mean, this was like a long time ago, but there was like shootout and all this thing.
It's insane, and trying to leave.
Well, their leader's in prison, and he's still instructing them on what to do and like casting people out and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's wild.
Whoa.
It's a story for another time. But anyway, I'm like, please write that screenplay because I would watch it. Anyway, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it was a blast.
So good to see you. Really yes, fun. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening. Behind the Lockbox is produced and edited by Property Showcase Group. If you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, or review this podcast. Thanks for your support. See you next week.